Hello, everybody. It's 7:01 right now, and welcome to everybody. Today is June 25th. Welcome to all this amazingly useful session today, especially during the current times of COVID-19 and everybody having all these lockdown situations. Welcome to everybody to get moving the right way. So natural movement, that's what the topic today. This includes basic locomotion, such as walking, running, climbing, crawling, as well as many other manipulative movements, such as lifting, carrying, throwing, catching. All these natural movements incorporate multiple elements of fitness. And this fitness approach is an efficient way to work out if you have the right approach. So welcome everybody, join ICS and Sanket Bakshi to get an introduction to natural movement. The session is going to be 2 Thursdays, today, 25th, and then July 2nd, the next Thursday. All are welcome, ICS members, non-members, everybody. And I must say a generic line that please follow general common sense when you follow the movements suggested by Sanket Bakshi, our expert today. But I'm required to, and you would understand, I do need to mention this disclaimer that this session is not meant to provide specific medical guidance for any given individual. If anyone is facing any medical concerns or any problem, you should reach out to your trusted provider or seek appropriate urgent care. The opinions expressed here are those of the speakers and the trainers. They do not necessarily represent ICS or the opinions of the employers of the speakers. But you should understand that when participating in any exercise item or any program which has exercise or movement, there is this possibility of physical injury if you don't do it correctly. So if you engage in this exercise, then you agree that you do at your own risk and are voluntarily participating in these activities, and you assume risk of all injury to yourself and agree to release and discharge ICS of any claims or cause of action, known or unknown, arising out of situation. Now, outside of this legal jargon, hey, have fun and just enjoy common sense. So with that, let me introduce Sanket Bakshi, who is with us. Thank you, Sanket, for joining us today. Sanket Bakshi is a certified natural movement coach. He is an ex-athlete and also has participated in numerous parkour and ninja warrior competitions across the country. He has also represented India at the obstacle course racing world championships for 3 years in a row. Can you believe that? And he has his Facebook album. He is following. He's a coach. And I would request all of you to keep your sessions on mute at the time of the sessions is ongoing. Video, I would request all of you to put yourselves on video so that Sanket would have the opportunity to take a look at the activities that are being carried out so that he can correct and provide some positive feedback as we go along. And I also, for the session, would allow, for everybody to not unmute themselves. During times, I will allow for people to unmute themselves and ask questions. So for the first few minutes, I would definitely not turn on the option, but as we go along, after a few minutes, all of you are, free to unmute yourself. If you're feeling concerned, if you're having any difficulty, please unmute yourself, speak out so that Sanket can address accordingly. Sanket Bakshi, over to you, and hopefully you are not having any trouble unmuting yourself.
That's great. Are you able to hear me?
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Sanket. Over to you.
Thank you. So, by the way, that was a great introduction. I might not be able to talk as well as Ashish does, but
well, you do what you do best, and that's the best that we are looking for this session.
Thank you. All right, so welcome guys to the evening today, 6:25, a great evening outside, but Thanks for all of you guys to come in here. We are going to address a topic that's actually very near to my heart, right? We call it natural movement. And what natural movement is, it's just exactly as the words say, it's natural movement, right? How would you move naturally in any surroundings if you are not, let's say, if you're not sitting on a couch, which obviously is not a natural structure, if you're not sitting in front of the TV, if you're not sitting on your computer, how would you be moving? What are various forces that are going to be that you're going to be encountering, and how are you going to be working with those forces? That can include things like regular things, like, let's say, walking, right? How do you walk more efficiently? How do you hang? How do you climb? There's a whole bunch of things that Ashish went through, but think about anything, any activity that you can do outside of a comfort of a sofa or a chair, and those are the kind of activities that we would be working through, right, in a natural movement setting. So for what we are going to do today, we are going to just learn about, first thing, we are just going to talk a bit more about why even care about natural movement, right? I'm here sitting on my sofa. I'm watching Netflix. I'm working with my laptop on my lap. Why do I care about natural movement, right? Obvious question. So the answer for that really is the way our bodies work, right? If you believe in the evolutionary theory of Darwin, right, our bodies evolved with certain set of forces, right? We kind of evolved over a period of time to do certain things, which is why we have hands, which is why we have feet that are a lot different from the other animal, right? Our needs were different, we evolved differently. What happens is those same things start working against us, because now, if you're not using those bodies efficiently as an efficient machine, guess what? Now you're standing up or you're sitting down, your knee starts hurting. Why? Because it's overused in a way that it was not supposed to be. And that's a very simplistic example, but then you can carry this example to literally any other scenario that you can think of. And these small inefficiencies, when you start looking at them, I mean, they might not really seem much, but then these small efficiencies, think about it, right? There is one specific joint, let's say your knee, which is supposed to move in a front and back direction, and over a period of time you have like a very small sideways bend on the knee going on. What's going to happen? 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, over a period of time, that joint is going to degrade much more, and you're going to start having knee pains, right? Again, very simplistic example, but that's really how the body works, which is why it's also important to know how to use these things efficiently, right? If we were talking about maybe 40, 50 years ago, we probably would have never even thought about having this conversation, because everybody was outside, everybody was going out. We were sitting down, having our dinners, and we were not watching TV, not on Netflix, obviously, and we were not on laptops as much. But now that we need to start talking about these things a lot more, which is why the whole concept of natural movement exists. Um, so that being said, I just that's more like a premise to natural movement, right? And thanks all of you guys here for joining in today. We are going to start exploring some very basic movements today. What we are going to do is two things. We are going to start understanding. First of all, we'll get through the warm up, and then secondly, we are going to start understanding a basic movement of walking. All of us love to walk. I think with the COVID situation that's going around, walking is perhaps one of the best exercises that a lot of us get. So we are going to explore some ways on what walking is, how to do it right consciously, how to be conscious of each movement when you're walking. And second thing, we are also going to learn what we call as a get up. And a get up is nothing but it's a simple movement, right? How do you, let's say you are in a lying position, how do you get up from a lying to a sitting position, and then from a sitting to a standing position, right? That's what a get up is. Very simply put, it's getting up from lying to sitting, sitting to standing, or directly from lying to standing. And we're just going to explore two of these very basic movements today. All right. So as Ashish mentioned, feel free to turn on your videos. It would allow me to see what you're doing. It would allow me to provide you some feedback. So yeah, let's get started.
And again, it doesn't have to be all and everybody, but even if a few or a sample set could turn on the video, let me see who's brave enough to do that. That way, Sanket will be able to provide first-hand feedback. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Sushmita, hey.
If you're uncomfortable doing that, absolutely fine. That's fine. Just follow what we are talking about here. But if you have a video, I would be able to provide you with some feedback. All right. So that being said, let's start off with our warm-up. We are going to start with some very basic warm-up, right? Everybody is aware of this position that I'm going to do right now, which is sleeping. And we are going to start right from there because we don't want to assume anything about how warmed up you are. So to start with, we are going to start sleeping and try to consciously pick up one hand. Let's say I pick up my left hand and consciously reach out to the other side, almost as if you're grabbing something. If you have a water bottle or your cell phone or anything around you, you can use that as well. So let's say I keep my water bottle here. I grab my left hand, pick it up, keep it on the other side. And increasingly start to make it more and more challenging. So I pick it up. Maybe I put it all the way up to the top. Use the other hand to go grab it. And put it all the way to my bottom, here to my legs. And keep alternating your hands. Now, as you do it, start going more and more farther away. And see how much you can stretch. Start putting your legs into it as well. So maybe if you're turning in on your left side, maybe pick up your right leg and see if you can go farther enough. See if you can go farther than without using your legs. All right. Now, once you do this, I would want you to pick up your legs and bring them to your chest. Hold your legs to the chest and see if you can rock to a sitting position. So again, you're in a sleeping position right now. Your knees come to the chest and use your body weight to start rocking. You can also, for the first one, you can also try to kick your legs forward and hold them back and come to a sitting position. Let's do this a few times. I'm going to just go over to the gallery view and see if I can see any of the videos. If not, that's fine. But let's try this out a few times. You start off with the sleeping position, knees to the chest, rock your way to a sitting position.
Yes.
Now, as you rock to the sitting position, you can try to see if you can rotate around yourself when you're rocking. One circle each way, clockwise, anti-clockwise, left or right, or whichever direction you choose, but let's do one circle each way.
Kids do these things so very naturally.
Exactly.
And it's just amazing.
Yeah. I mean, our bodies are meant to be doing all these things. It's just that over a period of time, as we keep sitting, as we keep doing what we need to do for continuing with life, we just start losing that ability.
Something to keep in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's a great point. Yes, I mean, kids just do this naturally. Cool. So let's say we'll continue. We are going to use the rocking motion as a basic for this class. So the next thing that we're going to do is come over and sit in a cross-legged position. If you cannot sit in a cross-legged position, that's fine. You can be extending your feet forward, but basically rock to a sit or rock cross-legged sitting position, like a crisscross applesauce, what we tell the kids. If you have any trouble with the back, if your back hurts, feel free to unmute yourself and let me know, and we can find an alternative movement there. All right. Now we are going to extend this same movement into a get up. All right. But then we are going to split this movement into different parts now, and see how we can do it a lot more efficiently. Okay. So to start with, we already did the rock to sit. Now, when you do the rock to sit, try to see if you can hold your legs here rather than over here. It's just going to give you a lot more leverage, because when your legs are free to move, you're not going to get as much leverage as you do when you confine them with your hands, right? I mean, you're trying to kick your legs, but your hands are not letting you kick them out, and that gives you a better momentum to sit. And these are the kind of efficiency techniques that that we talk about, or that we learn through natural movement, right? This is going to be giving you a lot better momentum than doing something like holding here. Nice. Do you see the difference? Perfect. So the next thing that we are going to do is, as we come to the sitting position, your feet are coming in a number 4 stance, right? So one of my foot is going to be straight. The other one is going to be bent. Now what that looks like is you rock, extend one leg, and sit. So it almost looks like a number 4 if you're looking at it from the top. Let me adjust my camera so that you can see what it looks like. So I do my rock and I come into this position right here. Right. So if you look at it from above, it almost looks like a number 4. Now, the reason why we specifically choose a number 4 position is because it's a lot more easier for us to get into a half standing position with number 4, right? One of the knees is here, my other foot is extended. I can use that momentum to simply get into a nice little supported lunge. So when I say a lunge, basically my body is resting on my hips is resting on the back knee, and the foot in front of me is supporting me to get up. If you notice, there is almost like a square between 2 of my knees and the legs, right? And that is basically what is helping me get up quickly and from my sitting position. Right? So let's see what this combination looks like. Let's get from a roll to that number 4 sit and use that same momentum to go into a lunge. Okay, so number 4, what we are doing here, and you can feel free to use your hand, right? So for example, my right leg is bent at this time. I can use my right hand to support myself into this lunge. Okay, so Again, right leg bent. I use my right hand. I support myself to get up and twist my back leg basically is twisted so that I get into a frontal plane. Or when I say a frontal plane, basically my legs are not going sideways now. I just twist my legs so that both of my legs are going forward. Right? Let's try this out. I think when we try it out for the first time, it can become a bit complex, but once you get it, it just becomes almost a second nature. So let's try it out. We are going to sit in a number 4 position and use our hands. Whichever leg is bent, use that hand to support yourselves and get up. And then simply turn your back leg to be in line with your front leg. Right? And then we'll get down again. Right? So let's just do this half movement a few times. We are not going to get up. We're simply going to support ourselves and get into this supported lunge position where both of our legs are almost making a square. Yeah. And you would see how you are actually changing your body weight here, right? You're moving your body weight forward, and that body weight shift is actually giving you some momentum as well to assist in getting up. So when the next time you're doing this now, pay some attention to how your body weight is shifting. If you need more momentum just while you're sitting, lean back slightly and then come forward. So that will give you some additional momentum. All right. Let's try this with the other side now. So my right leg is straight, left leg is bent. And I'm going to use my left hand to lean on and get into the lunge. Works well. Let's go back. Now, while you're doing this, also make a mental note of where your legs are. So for example, if my bent leg is right below my knee, I am actually going to get this perfect square that we are talking about. If my bent leg goes anywhere farther down, then I come in, but my lunge is not as great. Now when I get up, I'm actually putting a lot more pressure on my ankle and my knee to actually get up, right? Whereas if I'm right here in my square, if I have the square, I can use both my legs to get up rather than just my front leg when my lunge is not at a right angle. You see what I mean? So let's try this out. And this is again a good way of learning why the efficiency matters, right? This is a great example of that. So try it out. So get in the lunge. And before you get up, pull your front feet back by a few inches so that you are no longer in that square now. And now when you try to get up, you'll feel that you are actually putting a lot more pressure on your knee. You don't even have to get up completely, but you can feel that pressure on your knee. Now get into the square, get into that square with the lunge, and use your back foot to push yourselves. And now if you get up, you'll see that the pressure on the knee is way lesser. So every time you're doing this, let's say every day, if you're doing this once every day and getting up from the floor and you're doing it inefficiently, you can see how that pressure translates over 10, 20 years and starts destroying the knee, right? I mean, that's basically what we're talking about. That's the movement efficiency we're talking about. So now when you get up, just make sure you have a nice perfect square. You push from your back leg and stand up. So we are going to do this lunge a few times. It will be taxing, but yeah, bear with it. We are going to do this lunge 10 times on each side. So let's start with the first side. My left leg is forward, right leg is back. And now I'm going to start from this lunge position to a get up. So lunge, get up, and back. Right? So hold on, sorry. Just adjusting my camera, and there we go. All right, so get into a nice square, lunge, get up, and back. Make sure you keep that square. If you don't have the right angle on your knee, you're going to be putting unnecessary pressure on your knees. So the exercise, instead of actually helping you, it's working against you. All right, so let's do this again. We're going to do this 10 times. This is the third one. 3, and back. Make sure you keep the right angle for both your feet. Just be conscious with the movement every time you do it. Let's do it. 4, get up, and back. Now, if you need additional support, you can also lean on your knee. Use that additional support to get up. 5, and back. Every time you get up or get down, make sure you are conscious about the knee position. Let's do it. 6, and down. 7, and down.
Sanket, I think this is where we could probably use a bit of discretion for the participants. Some people, I think you explained very well that every time this activity is done inefficiently, every time we are actually getting things worse for our knees. And then that's the negative cycle that goes on. If you do it correctly, then obviously this is all good. Could you maybe give a little variation for somebody whose knee is at the moment really not as strong?
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you are having problems with your knee, there are other variations for get up. So one thing that you can do here is, if you start using the momentum right now, the way we are doing it is we are breaking down the movement, which is why you're not using any of the momentum. The ideal way to do this would be use this momentum and get up. And that way, you'll realize that once you have the momentum, then the pressure on the knee is way lower than what you would usually have, right? That's one part of it. The second part is, if you have a problem with the knee, then there are other areas that you can be working on. So, for example, I can be looking at getting up in a completely different way, which is where I lean onto one side and simply use my shoulder to get up rather than my knee. So now a lot of weight is actually on my hips and my shoulder rather than my knee. So, and this is a completely different way of getting up. If you guys want, we can do this as well. Now in here, I'm sleeping right now. I twist my body on one side. I put all the weight on my elbow, on my right side. My left foot folds all the way, and I use my elbow to prop myself up in a sitting position. Once I'm in the sitting position, I'm almost thinking of my left foot, my arm, and my right foot as a triangle. And now instead of my right foot in front of me, I'm simply taking the right foot behind me and standing up. Again, this is a completely different way of getting up. So we are going to be covering that next week. But right now, if you are unable to do the get up, the number 4 get up, figure 4 get up that we are looking at, that's fine. we can add some more momentum and see if that helps alleviate some pressure on your knee. If not, then we can do supported. We can support with our hands to reduce the pressure on the knee, right? And again, if it hurts right now, I would just say stop. It's not.
Exactly. I think that's important to reinstate here, that if anybody is feeling any pain or pressure, just feel the comfort, sense yourself, and then follow your own judgment about what steps to do or not. Let me also mention this, that at about 7:40 is about the time that we may want to actually do a bit of picture time for ourselves. So just saying it out about 7:40 or so, I would request everybody to turn on your video and get ourselves a nice picture. Let's carry on, Sanket.
We'll be able to wrap this movement up by that time. All right. So what we are going to do now is we are going to combine all the elements that we just talked about and start with a rocking position, get to a number 4, and use momentum to get up. Right? Let's combine that again. Rock, number 4, get up. And now as you do this, you would see that getting up becomes so much more easier, right? You're not spending as much energy as you were doing from this position on. This is way more difficult, but if I use my rocking momentum, it becomes a lot more easier for me. All right. So now what we are going to do is take that same momentum into a stand, right? In order to make it a lot more effective, I would say try to get some more speed into your rocking. So maybe do a few rocks, like maybe do a 3 or 5 rocks, get some nice speed built up, and then use that speed to get up. So what it looks like is this, okay? Do we have a question here? Okay, good. Yeah, if you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and we can talk.
Right, and the chat message can also be used to convey your questions if needed. I will speak it out.
Sure. Thanks, Ashish. All right, so let's start. Let's keep using that momentum. Now we are going to do it 3 times on the right and 3 times on the left. All right. So use the momentum, build up the speed. Once you have the speed, use that to get up. And now you'll realize that as you build up more and more speed, you don't need your hands. Your knees are not that tired, right? So the whole idea is to use the momentum for your benefit here. Right, so let's do 3 times with the right leg bent and 3 times with the left leg bent. Let's start on that. Build the momentum, right leg bent, up. Same way down, go into the lunge, twist my right leg to sit on it, and I go down. Build the momentum and go up. Yeah, if you don't have the speed, don't get up. Build the speed with the rock and then try to get up, because that's going to make your life way more easier, and you'll just see that when you start getting enough speed there. So if you don't get the speed in one rock, that's fine. Continue doing that till you get enough speed, and then you are able to get up. Beautiful. Nice. Let's do a few times on the left side. So the way to build more speed on the rocking would also be to hold your legs, constrain your legs, but almost kick it out. So if I'm here I'm almost trying to kick out, but I'm holding my legs strong so that the kick gets translated into the rock. Does that help? So if I'm not holding my legs, I'll probably be kicking out. If I'm holding my legs, the strength that I'm using to kick out stays in there and helps me with the rock. Does that help? Can we try that out? Because it's all about using that speed to gain momentum and using that momentum to propel ourselves up.
Can you show one more time?
Sure. So, okay, that was, by the way, one way. I'll just show that again. The other way is to also almost think about you're lifting your head, but now you want to go back. You want to go back and touch your head to the ground to come up, right? That's another way of gaining momentum. Do you feel any difference in speed? Do you feel any difference there?
Faster.
Faster, great. And now if you use that faster momentum to get up, you'll see what I was talking about in terms of lower pressure on your knees, because you're not spending as much time, you're not spending as much energy on that.
Yeah, I think the key is to build that right momentum so that the body actually just pushes up. So if needed, it could be done 2 or maybe 3 times if it's just to build the right momentum.
Exactly. I mean, so keep building on the rocking, because let's say if I don't get at the first, I keep building on it, and eventually I can get enough momentum to rock myself up. Right.
Yep, this is awesome.
Oh, wow. All right, some work needed.
Yeah, but as you keep getting more and more speed, you'll realize how efficient it gets. And then we add the other techniques that we talked about, like having that 90 degrees in the lunge to make it more relaxed on your knees, not make it more taxing. I mean, and you can feel the difference, like doing this versus getting up this way. That's a lot less taxing on your knees. Yes, we are almost at the picture time. Ashish, do you want to do a picture time?
Absolutely. This is a good time for logically getting into that ICS moment of the picture moment.
Absolutely.
So I would request everybody at this moment, nicely relaxed, if you just turn on your video with a nice ICS smile. And I wouldn't even say cheese, say ICS. Oh, wow. Mona Kaplani, you have a full, oh my God, there are more. Awesome. So that's great.
Monas, that's the cutest.
Oh, wow.
All right. So again, I'm giving a second here. Vijay, Krish Dipali, everybody, if you want to just turn on your video, that'll be an awesome moment for us today. So on count of 3, and Archana ji, if you want to bring in Umesh, I see him lurking behind. So to come in for the moment, that'll be great. All right, I see Jyoti as well. Thank you, Jyoti. And at the count of 3, okay? So here we go. 1, 2, and we need a little blinking moment over here. So let's go one more time. And again, a count of 3, starting from 1, 2. All right. All right. Thank you, everybody, for turning on your video.
Sorry, Ashish, my video didn't work.
Who is, what, for Archana?
Yeah, my video didn't work. I don't know what happened.
That's fine.
That's
fine.
fine.
All right. Sanket, let's carry on with this amazing session. And again, everybody is free to turn on your audio, speak out a question, be on chat. That's fine as well. But let's carry on. Or even if there's any feedback, if you want to share something, please go ahead. And Sanket, over to you.
Absolutely. Feel free to unmute yourself. Let me know if there is any feedback, if you would like us to go slow, faster, in general. So thank you. All right. So moving forward, now once we what do we do once we get up, right? We are essentially getting up for a purpose, and keep this in mind. Like any movement that we are doing, if you are conscious about the way you're going around with that movement, if you're conscious about the way you're performing a particular movement, you are going to be you're going to be learning a lot more about yourselves, because each of us starts at a different point in this journey, like be it exercise, be it movement, whatever term you want to give it. But each of us starts at a different point, right? So we are probably the best people to understand what's happening with our bodies or how to use it more effectively. Yes, there are definitely basic techniques that we are going to learn, but at the same time, when you are a lot more conscious about how you're moving, you realize that you can actually see where you're putting more weight, where you should or should not put that weight and stuff like that, and things just start improving a lot better. So a lot of it is also about the consciousness. Now, once we get up, right, we talked about getting up from a sleeping or a sitting position. What do we do once we get up? Once we get up, we are possibly walking around. And like I said, right, I mean, walking is right now perhaps the most done exercise during the COVID. And we are just going to spend a few minutes talking about walking. And then we are going to walk the talk. We'll probably just walk around and observe our bodies, what happens, how do we walk, and so forth. So as a basic, right, when you're walking, or rather, let's even dial it back. When you're standing up, everybody knows we stand on 2 feet, right? But if you look at it from a side profile, your ankles, knees, hips, and shoulders usually have to be in a complete alignment, because they are load-bearing joints. Your ankles bear the load, your knees bear some more additional load there. Your hips are the strongest joint in the body, and obviously the shoulders is what helps your upper body there. So in an ideal way, you're always on stacked. All these joints are stacked on top of each other, right? Now, what happens is, and I'm going to use this here for a little demo, but let's say for most of the times when we have when we are using our footwear, right? Most of our footwears have a heel. Even if you're wearing your best sports shoes, I can tell you that your best sports shoes have like almost a 1-inch heel. Now, what happens is with that 1-inch heel, when you stand on this, like this is probably my demonstration of the 1-inch heel here. Right now I'm not standing on it, but as soon as I move on to that heel, you see my body. If I'm still stacking my knees, my ankles, knees, hips, and shoulders in a single line, then I'm actually tilted. I'm actually like this, tilted like this, rather than being at a 90 degrees. Obviously, our body does not like that. So what we try to do is we tend to compensate that from the hips. And again, that's a great recipe for a poor posture, because eventually your hips are going to start giving up. They're going to be like, okay, I don't want to compensate, because this is all the upper body weight that's going onto my hips in a not so graceful way. And eventually, over a period of time, you start developing back pain, lower back pain, hip pain, depending on how you're using your knees and stuff like that, right? But you kind of get a general idea, right? I mean, think about this, like you have a bookshelf. If your body's like a bookshelf straight up, and one end of the bookshelf is kept on a 1-inch heel, think about how the bookshelf is going to be. It's going to be tilted. It's not going to be 90 degrees. And that's exactly what's happening. But our body is intelligent enough. We can compensate, but we tend to compensate it with the hips, right? So I'm standing like this. I have a heel, and now I start compensating with my hips. So that's one thing. So what I definitely tell a lot of times is, especially if you're home, see if you can do barefoot. See if you can walk around barefoot. Maybe not outside if you're worried about getting hurt and stuff. Yes, it's a legit concern. But if you're at home, see if you can be more barefoot, and that would allow you to be more conscious of your entire posture. The second thing is, now when we start walking, right, let's translate this balancing. On While we are standing, we are balancing on both the feet. Now when you're walking, you have it's a complex movement. We never think about it, but it's really a complex movement. You start by balancing on one of the foot, and after that you're literally falling forward, and you catch that fall with the next foot. So you start by balancing, fall forward, catch with the next foot. When you're balancing, your entire this leg, the entire assembly is holding you up. When you move forward, that leg assembly collapses, and then the other one builds up. And that's a basic movement for walking, right? You need to make sure that you're always falling forward when you're walking. A lot of times, what happens though is, if you're using a heel, then obviously you're falling forward, but now your body also wants to maintain that straight posture. So yes, you're compensating, and you're kind of falling forward in an awkward motion there. Some of the common things that can be that can be going wrong, or doing a common thing like walking, right? You might have seen a lot of people, they try to walk side to side, and that's again a very common trait. But then again, when you're walking side to side, you are putting a side to side pressure on your knee, which is a joint that's meant to be going forward, right? Your knee is meant to just bend forward, but when you walk side to side, yeah, your knee has to hold the weight, at least for a fraction of a second, completely on one side of the body, right? You kind of tend to lean on either sides. There is also other ways that you can think of that. So sometimes we tend to, rather than collapsing the entire assembly, we tend to I'm forgetting the term, but we tend to drag our feet. We tend to drag our feet, and that does not allow our entire that balancing assembly to completely form and collapse as we go with each feet, right? So those are some of the things that you can be conscious about when you're walking. So what we are going to do now is, let's take about 2 minutes. Let's go across the room that you're in, and really very slowly see if you can be barefoot. If you can be barefoot, that's awesome. But really very slowly do a walk across the room and observe how you're walking. Observe where where you're putting weight, right? Observe where you're putting weight. Observe at what point are you balancing. At what point are you balancing your weight, and so forth, right? Even when your foot touches the ground, is it touching the ground flat? Is it touching the ground on one side? Are you on your heels? Are you on your toes? So just do a conscious observation when you're walking around the room, right? So let's take a minute. We'll walk around and see if I would really like to hear your thoughts once we do that. There's also a lot of times we are looking at what the glamour industry shows us, and a lot of times we try to catwalk with one step right in front of the other, and you would very quickly realize that walking one step in front of the other again helps you it kind of tilts your balance. It's kind of going to send your hips swaying on one side, which again is not very optimal. So yeah, just be conscious when you're walking right now, and let's have a quick word when you're done.
Sanket, I'm so glad to hear about the concept of falling forward that you explained. This is actually very self-validating as well. I'm a runner myself, a long-distance runner, and in my running groups, in fact, there are a couple members in this session who have heard me also talk to them in my running groups, how we use falling forward mechanism as the natural way of running, because now you're employing gravity for your efficient movement. So much happy to hear about the fact that you actually, since you're an expert in this, you actually follow this. So that just as a feedback as I talk about this matter. Anybody else also, if you want to speak out, please do.
Yeah, I mean, feel free to get off mute, feel free to speak out, because I really would love to have this as a discussion. Walking is so universal.
Richard, you are mute.
Yeah, you're on mute.
Wait 1 second. There we go. So the interesting thing was when I wasn't paying attention and I increased the length of my stride, I was bending forward. And I didn't even realize it. It was almost as if I just followed my stride and my body started to lean forward. But when I started to pay attention and walk straight with a narrower stride, I was able to hold my posture straight and my legs and everything was aligned. So that was a revelation for me. I hadn't paid attention. Sometimes when you're trying to walk fast, you kind of try to take longer strides. And I guess I must have been making the same mistake where I'm leaning forward as I'm walking in for a longer stride. So that was a revelation for me today.
No, that's a great point. Thanks, Richa. And like Ashish said, right? I mean, we are falling forward, but we are not falling forward to a point where the other leg has to really stumble to catch us.
No, it wasn't stumbling, but it was interesting to see that it wasn't aligned. The whole thing went like that. And when you pay attention, you begin to realize that it's heel, toe, and you don't need to really increase the length of your stride and be able to maintain your posture.
Yeah. The other thing that, so Ashish, you were talking about running, and that reminded me is a lot of times, because we are used to having a cushioned footwear, we usually tend to strike with our heel. So that's another thing that you can be conscious about, like what part of the foot are you hitting with, right? And I'm not asking this as a question, but I'm just saying, like, generally when you're walking, just try to keep that in mind. Like, are you hitting the heel? A lot of people do that. I mean, surprisingly.
I hit the heel.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The heel hitting is very, very normal. Not normal, common, I should say. Flat foot is the best. And then some fast runners really go the top tip part on the front. But again, that's also...
Heel is wrong then. Is that what you're saying?
Let me see if I can show you something here.
Yeah, let Sanket talk it through.
So if you see the foot musculature, right, and this is probably not my greatest best foot forward, but if you see the foot musculature, right?
Nicely said.
a lot of there is a lot of cushioning or shock absorption that happens, right? There is literally a set of a huge set of muscles and bones that go in here, but the ball of the foot is where your ideal landing position is. And because once you land there, then the foot musculature takes up some pressure. Then you land your foot, your ankle takes up the pressure. And by the time it hits your ankle and knees, the pressure is already reduced to a great extent.
Okay.
Right. So, and again, it's kind of going to feel strange, obviously, because we are not used to, a lot of times what happens is that we grow up with cushioned footwear, and it's very easy to strike the heel. That's what we also see in the movies, right?
I always go heel first.
Yeah.
Ta-da. So here's the thing. Who thinks of going to learn to walk? It's like people go and pay money to go play golf. They go learn to play cricket. But who thinks of learn to go walk? there is 40, 50, 30 years of not running correctly. We have to unlearn that and learn the new ways that Sanket is now sharing. Thank you, Sanket, for sharing all the basic concepts over here. But there's so much we have to unlearn to get the efficiency of movement in our body.
I agree. And if I can just, I know we are almost there on time, but if I can just say one thing here, the way you have to exaggerate the movements to understand their impact on the longer term, right? So if you're actually going on a heel, try to jump on the heel.
Oh my God, that will be painful.
You see the kind of pressure it's going to follow through in your knees and hips and back. But the same thing, jump on the ball of your foot, and your ankles wouldn't even feel it. I can promise you.
That is true. So in my regular workouts, it's always the balls of the feet, but when I walk, it has always been heel toe, heel toe.
Yeah.
So at least what I learned was to cushion your feet. You know, when you're working out, where you're jumping rope or doing jumps the way you should, go on the balls of your feet. But when you're walking, it was heel toe, heel toe.
Why should it be any other way, right? Because it's still an impact. It's still a shock absorption that you need.
So that's an unlearning process for me now. Interesting.
Anybody
Well,
else?
this session is already a success with multiple members already finding something aha moment in their life.
That's great to know. Thanks, guys. Really helpful for me.
Interesting. I never.
It is a really a change in thinking as well. If you begin to really, I think if we go through the basics that Sanket has talked to us throughout, it does take different thinking, and different thinking is very awkward. So it will be awkward if you begin to adopt newer ways because you have learned 30, 40, 15, 20 years of what we are used to. So anybody have any questions on what they have seen so far, heard so far? Please come forward. And Sanket, are there any additional steps or exercises that you intended for the session that you want to take us through? Or do you want to wrap into?
I think we are pretty much through with the session. If there are any questions, I'm definitely I can definitely stay around. Absolutely.
Hi, I have a question. Hi.
Hi, Gayatri.
I was wondering, hi Ashish, thank you so much. This was very informative. I think this is also very useful because for various reasons, I wanted to ask you, is there any particular type of footwear that, you recommend? Because, we have these heels that are inbuilt into these, running shoes or walking shoes. Is there something that is better for our feet, which will help the gait and which will help release pressure off of the joints?
So I personally use what I call as the bare feet shoes. There's a company called Vibram that makes them. It's called a Five Fingers. I can send you the link if you want. But then again, I must let you know that it takes time to get into barefoot walking or running. I mean, I would probably, if you're moving into exploring barefoot running or walking, I would probably give it a good 6 months for your body to completely get into that habit, because I was doing the same thing. I mean, I'm not saying that, but yes, we are so used to having a heel. It's just very unnatural. We keep on striking I would say for about a year, my heels were hurting just because of that.
But what if people who have lumbar issues say, we typically go for shoes with some inbuilt sole, so it cushions your feet and your fall or whatever that case may be. So would that...
Again, I would probably start with a disclaimer here saying I'm not a doctor.
I'm just curious, I'm asking because, yeah.
But like my wife is flat-footed, right? When she switched to barefoot, it took her about 2 years, but she realized that, you know how you have a curve at the middle of the foot, right? Her curve started to return back, right? A part of it is that your foot has actually so much of intricate musculature. Once that musculature starts developing strength, then it will help you do the shock absorption. It will help you do that nice flexing and bending of the foot, and that is what is supporting a lot of your body above the ankles, right? So the way I look at it is if you are going barefoot in the house and not having lumbar issues in the house, then it's probably worthwhile to extend the same thing. I mean, you would usually need special shoes. Well, think about it, right? I mean, the reason why you have special shoes is again because normally you are using a different set of shoes and not going barefoot, right?
Yep.
But a very few people consider the third option, which is the barefoot part of it.
Interesting.
It's,
Thank you.
about the barefoot option. I mean, the barefoot is not literally barefoot. There are things that are very minimalistic, and you can wear. Vibram is one example. There are other examples like that. Minimus from Nike and all that. So let me just tell you, there is a mixed success rate in the market right now. I myself did adopt minimal shoes, and I've actually run full marathons using Vibrams, and I've had like 2 or 3 types of Vibrams. So, Sanket, I wish I met you earlier. We'll hit up a lot. For 10 years or so, I've been following minimalistic running and flat foot running and all that. So, but there are people who have, from the very first day, had issues with barefoot concepts and the runnings with barefoot. So, and they have had like shin splints and all. So it has to be adopted nicely, cautiously, consciously, and then see if it is working correctly for you. If it is painful, use judgment, use discretion.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, which is why I said, right? I mean, it's not a one-day thing.
Mm-hmm.
You should at least give yourself 1 year or so, at least, to get into those shoes or get into a habit of anything barefoot walking or something, so that your body can respond naturally.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanket.
There's a war out in the country. There's a war about these two people. One is against, one is not. And of course, the doctors really, they would have fun opposing that. But again, this session is not about pro or con on that, but use judgment on that. Sanket, any other remarks that you would share with us as we go logically wrap the session for everybody?
I would just say we are going to do another session next Thursday. So today we did a get up. Next Thursday we are going to do another type of get up, which would be a lot less use of knees, as we talked about. So yeah, definitely do come over. If you like this session, I'm pretty sure you'll like that one as well. So do attend that one. If you have any friends who are interested, get them as well. I mean, they wouldn't miss it if they have not attended this one. They wouldn't miss anything in the second one.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Next Thursday is the next session. I want to make sure that we also know that Sanket has a lot of YouTube tutorials also out there. He has a channel as well, which we can share as we go about explaining. We also want to mention that there are some other summer programs starting up from ICS. So summer camp registrations are starting, for example, for art or some other, multiple fun things coming up by ICS as well. So look out for something tomorrow morning where you can start signing up for those. But definitely next Thursday, you got to come back here and learn more for how the body dynamics work, how God made the body to move, and learn the dynamics of efficient movement with Sanket. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sanket.
Thank you, Sanket.
You do a job of talking much better than I do.
Well, you do what you're doing better, and that's what we are really here for. Thank you so much, Sanket.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Enjoy your evening.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.